let's do a movie review. You've got 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. That puts me on. So Plan 75, which is Plan 75, which is a Japanese drama directed by Chiya Hayakawa, who was one of the co-directors of a 2018 film called 10 Years Japan, in which the filmmakers imagined what Japan would be like in 10 years later. And her segment was called Plan 75, which was about a government plan to deal with the aging population, essentially through, euthanasia. The film is an extension, the feature film is an extension of that idea. It starts with an off-screen murder being played out to the sound of piano music, blurred visuals in the foreground, in the background, and you hear something going on in the background, and then you just see a blood-splattered man walk into the foreground. And then you hear this voice say, "The surplus of seniors is draining Japan's economy and taking a heavy toll on the young generation. Surely the elderly don't want to be a blight on our lives. The Japanese have a long, proud history of sacrificing themselves to benefit the country. I pray that my courageous act will trigger discussion and a future that's brighter for this nation." And then we see the man shoot himself. It then jumps forward. In response to a wave of hate crimes against the elderly, the government have introduced Plan 75, which is a plan which offers assisted dying to anyone over the age of 75. And at the beginning, it's all very matter-of-fact, very methodical. Volunteers get a preparatory grant to spend as they wish. And there's a group plan for free cremation if buried together in a group. And we have in the background informational films about choosing to die as a freedom, that they will be there for you till the end. And these informational films, like something in Blade Runner, are playing in the background. Here is a clip. So it's very low key, and for those who couldn't see that, not watching this on YouTube but listening to it, essentially what you have is an old woman sitting in a waiting room, and this information film in which somebody's saying, "Oh yes, well it's great. I'm going to choose, the time of my death. We don't choose when to come into the world, but what my family will say about me is." She shows this is all very Soylent Green.
Explain what you mean by that.
Well, Soylent Green is a kind of dystopian future fantasy in which one of the things which is on offer is state-sponsored euthanasia, because they're just trying to deal with the population crisis. And then the sort of central character we see losing an apartment, no joy with welfare. Everywhere she goes, there are Plan 75 flyers. She ends up in a soup kitchen in which somebody comes and says, "Can I talk to you about Plan 75?" And she discovers that if you sign up for Plan 75, one of the things that you get is 15 minutes on the phone twice a week with a Plan 75 operative to whom you can talk. And there is this heartbreaking sense that what happens is she finds a friend in the phone operative who is part of this program, who 15 minutes twice a week she can talk to her. And then they meet, and then they go bowling, and she smiles and laughs for the first time. And the irony of all of this is that perhaps she's suddenly being presented with an argument to want to carry on. It's a very, very moving and affecting film. I mean, it's doing the thing that science fiction does best, which is that it's taking a sort of real world situation and, multiplying it, fantasizing it, turning it into, a science fiction fantasy. But it has its roots in something which is recognizable. It's terribly distressing, but it's very, very low key. And it also actually allows itself to have moments of redemption in its later sections. There are also the adverts going on in the background have that kind of really dark satirical jokiness that you see in the adverts in RoboCop, for example. Anyway, I didn't know what to expect at all, because the subject matter sounded, very, very, very dark. And it is dark, but it is doing all the stuff that that I think that science fiction, I mean, some people would argue this isn't a science fiction film, it's just a sort of, realist dystopian satire. But it does that, it has that thing about it's an imagined world that is actually about this world, and it's very, very low-key and very, very moving, and very interesting soundtrack, which is ambient and kind of gives you the sense of something brooding in the background. And I think it's politically astute and really well worth seeing. It's called Plan 75.
So it sounds as though it's not sensationalist at all.
Not at all. Not in the slightest bit. It is absolutely, completely low-key, and that's the thing that makes it chilling.
It kind of adds to the debate, the ongoing debate, which would take ages, about dignity and death and people who are campaigning for some degree of choice. So it adds to that rather than takes it away.
I think it is more to do with a society that does not know how to deal with a large section of its population. I think it's less about the right to decide and more about the right to be overlooked.
If I've remembered this right, I think Japan has, according to the stats, has the population which is aging the most.
Exactly, which is why this is kind of rooted in and as I said, the thing begins with what is a hate crime, a very violent hate crime that the government then responds to by introducing Plan 75. So the whole thing is framed within that context.
Sounds fascinating. So that's Plan 75. Also, in this particular podcast, Mark will be reviewing these films.
I will be reviewing Still, a Michael J. Fox movie, which is a film about Michael J. Fox, and Book Club, The Next Chapter.
Both of those films have colons.
They do.
Still colon, a Michael J. Fox movie, Book Club, colon, The Next Chapter. Too much
Next
punctuation, I think. Anyway, we'll be back before you can say, es ist nicht genug zu wissen, man muss auch anwenden. Es ist nicht genug zu wollen, man muss auch tun. Which, as you know, is Goethe. Knowing is not enough, we must apply. Willing is not enough, we must do.
Thanks very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed making it. While you're here, check out all the other videos because they're cool too, aren't they?
Yeah, and if you want to keep up to date with everything Kermode and Mayo's take, then check out our social channels.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
I mean, I would. I have done.
Excellent.